Hello, everyone. How are you doing? How are you holding up? How is your Tuesday going? I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining me on this Tuesday afternoon. Excuse me. Okay, so where are we? We're in with the song that we've been writing, like the solo song. I came up with the idea. We wrote it together. We went through the whole process. I did some stuff over the weekend and worked on the song a little bit more. And now we're just gonna it's not fully done. There are a few more things that I need to do in order to get everything done. I still haven't done some harmonies in the second verse, and I haven't done the choir at the end of the song. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get into that stuff today. I'm just going to do it and, then be able to do some more of the stuff that we're going to do today. But we're going to treat this song like it's done, minus those few things, and we'll kind of get it ready as if I was going to send it off to someone else to get mixed. Now, I'm going to mix it myself, but I also want this to be kind of a lesson for everyone, showing how you would go about, like, oh, I wrote this song, I'm going to send it off to Tim or whomever to mix, because I want to separate myself from the song, and I want an outsider's opinion on it. So I need to get this ready, because maybe they're not working in Studio One. Maybe they're working in Cubase. Maybe they're working in Pro Tools. You want to be able to send your files to them, so when they load it into their session, or their DAW, if it's a different one, you want to have it so that when they load it in, everything lines up and it's just all perfect the way it goes. Let's see, what do we got? Oop, there it goes again. Oh my goodness. That's not supposed to do that. I was trying to look at that. Hey, well, from the UK. Welcome from the UK. How are you doing? Thanks for joining. Let me fix this thing real quick. I guess it's time for a new arm. Talk about a failure, right? Ugh. What is going on here? Oh my good. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Kyle. Things just falling apart. But I feel like that's just my day today. Everything's just falling apart. I tore up my hands, but whatever. It doesn't matter. They're just fingers. I got 8 other ones. I'll use those ones. Okay. Let's dive into the DAW. But yes, anyway, Madge, I'm going to say that your name is Madge. Welcome from the UK. Thanks for joining. So let me do this and get us into our Studio One session. Also, I'm going to pick up these headphones from the ground because they shouldn't be on the ground. Oh my goodness, what did I do? I'm like breaking everything over here. Okay. All right, so like I said, we're going to assume that I'm done with this song. I'm not. There's a couple more things I'm going to add, but whatever. That all can happen at a later date and time. We're going to approach this as if I am done. I want to print all this stuff as if I'm sending it off to somebody else to get mixed. I want everything to line up for them as it lines up for me. But if I just send them all of these audio files, let's get rid of our mixer real quick, and I don't have my keyboard thing. Come on. Nope, not key food. Keycaster. Thank you. I keep forgetting to do this thing. I did make the mouse big for you guys so that you could see it. Boop. Shortcuts will go over there. As they always are, shortcuts are going to be on the left-hand side of your screen. So you can see in my session now, because I'm the one who wrote it, I'm the one who put it together, there's like little things. This was just a reference piano. I'm going to leave it in for now. I'm not going to worry about it later. But if I was going to send this session off to somebody else to get mixed, these things all wouldn't necessarily line up in their session. If I just sent them, here's the files, here you go, and I didn't do what's called consolidating or bouncing in Studio One, and just saying like everything goes from 0 on. Hey, Bill, thanks for joining. If I don't say the files need to go from 0 on, then if somebody's working in like Cubase or Logic or Pro Tools, blah, 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 and they just get a bajillion little audio files, they're not going to know how to line them up. And you want your session, if you're going to send something off to be mixed by an outside engineer, you're hiring them to mix. You're not hiring them to figure out what you did inside your session. depending on the person, they may or may not tune the vocals. They may or may not time align some of this stuff. Whenever you're approaching somebody else mixing your stuff, you should assume that they are hired to only mix. So everything else should be done for them. This way they can just take all the files, load it into their session, if it's an outside DAW, and start mixing. And just go. Because they would be wasting your time. If I got a session from somebody, a song from somebody that didn't have all the edits done and maybe the vocals weren't tuned and stuff like that, now I have to spend more of your time, because you're the one paying for the service. I have to spend more of your time doing these things as well, instead of just getting you an awesome mix. So do the courtesy for your mix engineer and get this stuff done beforehand, before you even send it off to them. Why is that even open? You don't need to be open. So that's what we're going to take care of today. Now, a while ago, we did this for our drums, which I don't know why it's in separate little sections like this. It doesn't matter. I think I might know why. But so a while ago, we saved some processing power, and we just printed our drums out. And it looks like drums. But it's just a stereo file. If I solo it out, it's everything consolidated into this. Chris comes in. You damn right. Chris actually just sent me a mix. He was a new version of a mix he was working on. He and I have been going back and forth. I did a pseudo master for him the other day, just to show him some things that maybe he could do in his mix. Okay, so this is just a stereo file of the drums, but I would not send this to a mix engineer. I would send it broken down to like different parts, like kick, snare, toms, overheads, things like that, as if it was like an actual acoustic drums. Now this was a VST drums, and it was this guy, which is not right on. Oh, what happened here? The point. Why did you move? Interesting. You shouldn't be there, but that's all right. I can just go like this. I need to go here. Samples, drums. And this is the coded. Wow, what happened to my thing? This doesn't look like this normally. Interesting. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I have that in. What I'm going to do real quick is going to come to you guys, because as we're doing this, I'm also going to make this kind of a Q&A session. So while I'm restarting Studio One, which I'm going to save, you can't see this, but I am saving, I want you to just throw questions to me, whether it be about how we got to where we are in the song. Audrey's here, Kyle's here. Let's see, Chris had said lost an entire mix budget to editing and turned out bad. I think we were talking about this, where you were supposed to have like a week in a studio that has an SSL console, but you had to spend 5 days editing everything, and then you had like a day to mix everything. I think is what you had going on. I'm still restarting Studio One in the background, so you guys don't need to see this. But yes, we're also going to make this kind of a Q&A session as well. So if you guys have questions, throw them into the chat. I'll look over and answer as much as I can in whatever ways I can. Hopefully I can show you examples if I have some stuff available. Relaunching Studio One right now. It was that. Aha! See? Nailed it. I remember. See? I remember things sometimes. Not all the time. Most of the time, not all the time. But yeah, if you guys have questions about anything, something to do in Studio One, some production technique, some writing technique, something like that, I'm here for you. Let's answer some questions. My session is loading again right now, so I'm just going to talk to you. You got to deal with this. Hey, how you doing? How you been? Whatever. I'm vamping by myself to you guys. I'm trying to waste a little bit of time while this thing loads up again, which it's going. I got a lot of stuff on here. I guess in the meantime, we can go back, because you can just see it loading. It doesn't matter. And once we see Melodyne up here, loading console, that's fine. Chris, I will listen to the mix that you sent me probably after the stream. We do have to end the stream at 3:30 today because actually Eviscerate on YouTube that his name is Chris. He'll tell you it's been kind of a crazy day. I had a lot of other work going on as well. So we got to do a kind of a short stream today, which is why we're doing like a Q&A, answering your questions, showing you how to get stuff ready to get sent out to be mixed for somebody else. Come on. Why is this taking so loading samples? Goodness gracious. Come on. I don't even have anything else going on this computer. I have messages going on. That's nothing. Have we gotten... Hang on, I gotta answer this message real quick. Come on, session. You guys can see. There it goes. There. Now we're back online. All right. Let's see. Did this guy load up? Wow. This is really weird. I have to reinstall. That's so weird. That is so very weird. Okay. We're not going to worry about drums today. I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to reach out to the manufacturer that's and let them know that that's what I'm dealing with. Actually, I'm just going to do this real quick for you guys. I'm just going to take a quick screenshot so I can send it to them. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, we still have... Let me make sure that this one's off as well. It is. Okay. So, for now, my first question coming in, before we get into anything else, I don't understand well the concept of DI boxes, etc. Okay, so I do have a video out on the YouTube channel, which is where you're watching now, talking about what is inside a DI box. Where here's a cheapo one that I have as well. Let me do this. The little live wire. This is like the Guitar Center cheapo brand. I think it was like $40 or something like this. What this device does, my goodness, I hit the wrong button. I am a complete wreck today. What that device does, plus a lot of audio interfaces that have an instrument input. It's not necessarily a line input. It's or a 1/4-inch input, but sometimes it has like a little guitar looking symbol, or it has a button that says high Z. High Z is for impedance, because instruments like guitars and keyboards and stuff have a higher impedance than like microphones do. We're not going to get into that nerdy stuff right now. But what a DI box does is it converts that high impedance signal from your instrument, whether it be keyboard or guitar or some piece of gear that you have. It converts the high impedance signal to a microphone level signal. DI box mostly matches the impedance between two separate signal types. Correct. It will take a high impedance signal like a guitar and bump it down to a microphone level impedance. Now, there's reasons to do that. The reasons are a lot of... From back in the day, a lot of equipment couldn't handle the high impedance. It was more so built for the microphone things, plugging microphones in and then putting a microphone in front of stuff. It doesn't help getting a nicer sound. It can. It depends on which one you do, or which one you use. It's not. Don't think of it like that, though. There are components inside of a DI box that can change the sound a little. Something like on the Avalon, I believe it's the U5 or the M5, I can't remember. It is a DI box. It's a hefty boy, and it's got a bunch of transformers in it. I think like 2 or 3 transformers, I can't remember. But it also has a tone knob on it, and it can alter the sound of the instrument going in, and you can modify the tone going in. But at its very core, all the way dumbed down to this guy, down to this little thing. It takes your guitar level signal, and I'm just going to keep using guitar as our example. It takes your guitar level signal, which is high impedance, and brings it down to a microphone level impedance. All it does is just taking the resistance that the instruments cause and putting that down. Then you can put it into a mic preamp. You can put it into any kind of like different gear to then continue down the recording chain for that. Nowadays, a lot of the interfaces have these things built in, but you can get different ones. Like I said, the Avalon U5 or M5, I can't remember. It is a very nice DI. There's a lot of them out there. Like the radial DIs are very good. So there's different components inside different DI boxes, which do impart a little bit of sound, but more so it happens like on the other ends of the chain. Large impedance difference can cause changes in frequency response and add more distortion. Yep. So the DI box levels that out. Correct. So that's what a DI box does. All right. I'm getting back into this session. I'm not going to worry about drums right now because I'm having this little technical issue. So let's take a look at our bass. This was just a DI bass. And if I take everything off, it sounds like a DI bass. Now, let's assume that this is all edited, everything's like timed correctly. I don't even have like audio bends in there or anything. So assuming, actually I'm going to do this real quick. Save as export. That's not how you spell that. Export. Cool. Beep, 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 beep. Okay. So let's assume that this is the perfect bass guitar take. You've done all of your edits. Everything's done. And we'll get into some of the edits in a little bit. Like you'll see I have to do some stuff for the background vocals and all the guitars and everything. You want to be... Audrey, if you want to be as free, I'm going to assume as possible, regarding the sound, do you recommend plugging direct the guitar in the interface and tweak later? That is dependent on the sound you're going for. If you are the guitar player or you're working with a guitar player who wrote a song and they're like, oh, it's based on this pedal that I have, which is a really awesome, delay reverb thing, and I built the song around that, then what I would recommend is plugging all of that stuff in and into like a guitar cabinet and putting a microphone there and recording all of that because they built the song on this thing that they did. In my case, I just had the little riff that I had, and it was literally just my phone sitting on the desk, and I was just plucking away at one of my electric guitars. It didn't have a sound. It just had an idea. So for that instance, I went and plugged a guitar DI straight in. Like we can... where's my mouse? Here it is. Like if I was going to go to this guitar and open up my mixer again and just take all of these things off... It is just DI guitars, and they sound like a DI guitar. They sound a little farty. They sound a little... There's nothing to them except for the fact that it's a guitar plugged straight in, which is what I needed. And then I built the sound up from there, and I just turned these things on, and so there it goes. I was able to kind of make the sound from there. So if you're building... If the song you're recording was built with effects already like determined, or like it was part of the writing process, or it's that sound that player needs, record it. Put it in the line, record it, put it through an amp, record it. Even if you take a line out of their pedals and plug DI into that, and then you use an amp sim, you could do that too. But if it's part of the sound, record it. If it's not part of the sound and it's just like a thing, you can still just plug it into an amp and record that way. I have sessions where, how the guitar player performed also played into what they were hearing out of the amp. So they played a little different because, amp A had a high gain channel and amp B had like a low gain channel, and then we blended them. And that's the sound that we got. And they were able to listen to what the guitar was doing through that amp and through that cab and through that microphone and through that preamp and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it influenced their playing. But again, you kind of have to judge it. So always be open to different ways of capturing your sounds. Okay, just gonna turn this stuff off again real quick. So bass guitar. Let's say this is the greatest bass we've ever heard in our life. It's all edited and ready to go. Sounds like a bass guitar. If we were going to, you see how this is already all the way through, but our guitar isn't. This one actually doesn't start at the very beginning, and there's some guitar stuff going on here. These are the things that we're going to handle. So for this bass, essentially what you could do is I'm going to open up my browser, and I'm going to go to Files. There are other ways of doing this, but I'm going to try and show you a few different ways of doing this. Let me just kind of collapse some stuff. I want to find these things. Music productions. I think this is where this is not Yomi, but Tim. And solo rock song. We can put a new folder in here called Ready Files. Okay, so here's my bass guitar. If I had a bunch of edits in here, and then I went in and I created like little crossfades, and I was just double clicking to put all those little cuts in. This is just an example. Put my crossfade in. Nope, that did that. Boop. Okay, so let's say I have my crossfade in. I've done that for all of these things. I would then select everything. I was just holding shift. I know the keyboard shortcuts look weird, but I was holding shift and hitting left on my keyboard just to select multiple things. I could hit Command B on a Mac or Control B on a PC, and that will bounce the bass. So it will take all of those little edits and all those little crossfades and commit them to a new track. I can then very easily just drag this in to my folder. And that's it. Now, when a mixer gets this bass, which has been consolidated to 0 or bounced to from 0, and they throw it into their session, it's going to start at 0, and it's going to line up with everything else as we continue to do this with all of our other tracks. Okay? So that's one way to do it, is you can literally just drag everything over. This is the greatest thing about drag and drop in Studio One. Actually, let me scroll this up so you guys can see that a little better. You can just drag and drop. So now in this folder, which says Ready Files, because they're files ready to mix, there's the basses in there. Okay? So Guitar 1, we're going to locate it, and you can see that Guitar 1 actually doesn't start. It starts like right on the beat, and it actually cuts off a little, but that's something we can worry about later. Actually, no, let's do it now. Let's expand our layers, and we can kind of steal a little bit of this guy, and that's our edit. And I just opened up my layers, and I clicked and dragged to bring the elements of that layer to my topmost layer. I can't talk today. So I really want to just have this be like the absolute beginning. So something like this. So this fade I'm going to get rid of, because that was like, oops. So like, you see how, I'm going to make this real big for you. And scroll down. Okay. You see how there's a little fade here, and there's like this crossover fade here? That's something in the settings that I have where it kind of tries to auto fade when you do like some comping. But because I have both things selected, I can take either one of these and get rid of it. And then you see that it then becomes gray, showing that there's an overlap. I can then take my underlayer, and I know that it's the underlayer because I'm coming to the edge of the gray here. So if I was going to click, it is this layer underneath. So I'm going to just drag this over. I'm going to get it real close to the edge because I don't want a lot getting lost. So it's 0.53 seconds. So it's like 5 milliseconds. And if I hit X, it gave me a big crossfade. But I can also adjust this crossfade so that all I'm getting is the very first note. There's a little bump. You can hear that there's like a little hiccup in the edit. So actually what I'm going to do is I'll zoom way in to that crossfade again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold, not that, I was holding Option. There, I forget the keyboard. There. My keyboard shortcut, and this is a default, is Command and Option, or on a PC, it'll be Control and Alt. You hold both modifiers and you get this tool. You see my mouse has become this little straight line with the arrows left and right. What I'm going to do now is actually shift the audio, and it's on the bottom half of your event. I'm going to shift the audio in this first event and not move the event at all. I'm just shifting the audio around within it so that I can more so line up where the audio would be in our crossfade. Now I've let go of the modifiers and I can move my crossfade around so that I'm not actually deleting any transients, and our crossfade is going to be a little easier. Now, there's a minor thing to that is I've changed the beginning of the note. The beginning of this note is early. So we can just do the opposite. We can line it up. Whoops. Why'd you scroll like that? And you can see, like if we take the crossfade and move some stuff around, I'm just trying to make it so that everything would line up if it was one continuous file. So this is like some editing things that you can do before you send it off. So you see, like if I go to either event, the crest of this waveform stays in the same spot. Audrey, thank you for the donation so much. Number one fan, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for the donation. It helps continue to make these live streams happen and all the other videos. So thank you. Let me zoom way in. Watch this waveform when I move the crossfade over. You can see this, the crest of the audio file happens at the same spot. So we can kind of split the difference. I'm going to go to the edge and I'm going to make my crossfade like minuscule. But the crest is there. Yes, the overall amplitude of this one instance of the waveform is now reduced, but we can compensate with that by changing the style of our crossfade. And if we do a logarithmic crossfade as opposed to a linear crossfade, this is an equal power instead of an equal gain. So that's the difference between linear and logarithmic crossfades. Is now I'm going to move this around and you'll see essentially the waveforms are the same power. So because there's two waveforms happening at the same time on top of each other, we can have a reduction of power, but because it's two audio files of the same note, you have twice as much power because they're going to line up with their frequencies. If this was out of phase, they would cancel each other, but because they're in phase, they're going to boost each other. So having a little dip here is fine because of phase amplification. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. So now when we go back, we know that this new guitar note is in time. It's actually probably a little late at this point, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. And there's no little bump or hiccup where the note or where the crossover, where the crossfade happens. Can't even hear it. So now let's assume that this is the greatest guitar we've ever heard. Everything is done. We need to do the same thing like we would do for the bass. We need to have it so that this audio event actually starts at 0, even though the waveform itself and the notes and everything happen at bar 3. So we have all this stuff. What we can do is I just selected everything that's in my folder, but it's the same thing as like these events here, which go from beginning to end. And I set my loop, which I did Shift P to set the loop. Now with these guys, I shift clicked those. That's so silly. I can hit Command B, and I bounced again, and it happened so fast. And I put it to bar 2. Why did it go to bar 2? Well, if we undo, well, also that's something we could do in theory. Thankfully, this note did start at the very beginning. So if I really wanted, I could just pull back, bounce from here, and now it goes to the beginning. So that's another way of doing it. But if you didn't have, like maybe this one, which is grouped right now, this one only goes to here. I'm just going to undo those things real quick. Like if I try and drag this group out, and speaking of groups, I just want to disable all mine. Disable group. Nope, not dissolve group. Show group. Beep, 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 beep. Suspend all groups. Command Option G. Cool. Suspended all groups. Yeah. Now outputs can stay open. Oh, outputs, what have you done? Sometimes this happens. You just have to close. You saw how it was like black on the mixer? You just have to close the mixer and bring it back up. Okay, so we were talking about this track here. And if I drag it out, it doesn't go all the way back to 0. So like how do you handle things from here? How can you line this up from 0 again? Easy enough. We're going to assume the same things as we did before, that our edits are done. So let's just throw little fades in and out. Everything's lined up, etc., etc., etc. I also wouldn't worry. So I think 19, well, let's just find out. Yeah, 19 is on top. So I'm going to do my edit. I'm going to go over here. 19 is still there for some reason. That snapped, and I just held Shift to disable the snapping. So that's done. These guys don't do anything. Okay. So guitar track 3. Actually, it's just unsolo everybody and then do guitar track 3. If we bounce now, it will fill in the middle, but it won't give us audio all the way to the beginning of our session. So I'm just going to undo. And the way to do this, and this is something you would hold until the end, once all of your edits are done on all of your tracks, what you could do is go to Song and Export Stems. Marcus Huskins, who was recently, hanging out with us on a couple live streams, and I've been chatting with him, he has an awesome video that I was watching earlier today on this. And it talks about when you're exporting stems, the difference between channels and tracks. And to sum it up is this. When you're exporting tracks, you're exporting all of your different audio or MIDI tracks in your arrange window. So everything that like you're seeing here. But it doesn't necessarily do if you have like an instance of impact, and that has multiple outputs to your mixer, so that you can do like kick and snare and things like that, like the drums we were doing before that the GUI messed up for me. That would still, if you do it as a track and it's a MIDI drum session and everything's in the one MIDI event, it's going to print just a stereo file of your audio like we saw before. Like it would do essentially this. And that's tracks. I'm really like paraphrasing. You should really go check out Marcus's video. So that would be if you're doing tracks. So for like guitar 3, yes, this is something that I want to do right now. And preserve mono, sure. Right tempo, I'm not going to worry about that. Import to track, I am going to do is use, I think our session is 48. You know what? Let's just make it 32. We should be fine. And then here's where you can do it. You can do it between a loop. You can do it from your start and end marker, which this is the one we're going to do because I know the start marker is all the way at 0. You can do it between each marker. So you could do like, if you had a bunch of markers, you could do between each different section, or you can do just like little sections if you have a bunch of markers. Audrey, what do you think about getting a lot of plugins? I love buying stuff, but do we need 10 compressors when in a mix is hardly audible? You know what I mean, I guess. So I'm going to finish this, and then I'm going to answer your question. It's a good question, so we're going to get back to it. And if anybody else has questions, start throwing them in now. I'm noticing that it's a little bit after 3, so we do have to I have to end at 3:30 today. So start throwing your questions in. But I just wanted to show you this. So I'm going to do the track for guitar 3, and I'm going to do between song start and end marker. It is going to bring it right back into my track. And I'm going to hit cancel because I forgot to do 2 things. This is something to keep in mind. I'm going to put my fader to 0, and I command clicked right here to put the fader to 0. And I'm going to make sure that my plugins, because this is just a DI guitar, and I'm going to kind of make it free reign for myself and the mixer to throw some sounds in, because that would change some things. So my fader's at 0. None of my plugins are in, right? Okay. Export stems. Guitar 3. That's the one we're working on. Song and end. I'm going to get rid of that. Because file name prefix would be like, you could put the song and the BPM of the song in here. And then if for some reason like a folder got messed up on somebody else's end, you could be like, oh, this song at this BPM, and they could refind it pretty easily. That's all correct. Preserve mono, import to track, close after export, etc., etc., etc. Yes. Okay, now it's going to think, and it's going to print us a DI track that starts at 0 and goes all the way through. Thankfully, it's going real fast because there's no processing going on. I didn't turn anything on. Okay, so what do you think about getting a lot of plugins? Unfortunately, I love plugins. I have way too many. I'm going to show you my list once this thing is done. Okay, so here we go. You can see, here's my 2 guitars, but there is a difference going on. Guitar 3 here, this is what we recorded at, and this is the one that it just printed. Now, it is the full length of our song, but the volume was affected because it's going through this bus. When you're doing this, and this is why I said earlier, it needs to be one of the very last things you do, because exporting stems is affected by your volume faders. So you basically want to turn everything off that isn't essential to the sound. If I wanted to print the guitar sound on this, let's say it was this one. Hey, click. If this is the sound, I'm just going to do a couple notes because if this is the sound and I have this on, I'm going to get rid of this one. We're going to do the same thing. Now, my bus is at 0. My track is at 0. And I have my plugin on. I'm going to do the same thing. Export stem. Same guy. Get rid of that. Song, start to end, etc., etc., etc. Preserve mono. Yes. Import to track. I know it's number 3. Now it's going to process, and it might be a little slower. Actually, it wasn't, because I'm just doing the one. Once it's done, you'll see it's going to print everything, including the plugin. So it's like I'm committing this sound. And done. So now if I just solo this guy, It's the printed sound of that guitar. It looks shorter, but it's because it's a distorted guitar, so the dynamic range is much smaller. But it printed this sound. I'm listening to this track, the one that we just made, and it sounds like a guitar that's going through this amp. So if you want to send tracks to somebody and you want to send them clean, you have to turn everything off. If you want to commit your sounds, then you just leave them on. But you have to put your faders to 0 and you have to put your buses to 0 because those will play a part in all of this. And you want the mixer to be able to adjust the levels because that's their job. I am going to undo, and we're going to do it one more time so I can just show. Soloing this guy. Our bus is open. Everything's at 0. Command-Shift-E is my shortcut. Get rid of this guy. Beep, beep, bop, boop. Now it should be a printed DI guitar, and it's going to go real fast. Yeah, again, 12 times real time. Bop Studios is here. What's going on, dude? Okay, let's answer your question while this thing's going. Actually, it's just about done. What do I think about plugins? I love plugins. And you love buying stuff. I mean, I'm happy to hear that you love buying stuff. All right, last thing. Now you can see between these two guitars, they look pretty identical, other than the fact that this one starts and ends at the start and end of our song. And if we were going to listen to this one, it is a DI guitar. So we are now sending just a plain DI guitar to our mixer, if that's what you have in your session. Okay, let's go here because I keep diverting, and I'm sorry, my allergies are a little crazy today, so you keep seeing me play with my nose. What do I think about getting a lot of plugins? I love buying stuff, but do we need 10 compressors when in a mix? It's hardly audible. You know what I mean, I guess. I do know what you mean. And there's 2 ways to think about it, at least. One is, no, you don't need 100 different things that are the same. You can get away with 1 compressor and do everything with that. The reason that different compressors exist, and the reason that different plugins exist, is how they respond to things and how they affect the sound. I'm sure you know that an 1176 versus an LA2A, they sound very different. How they react to sounds is different. Now, if we're getting further in of, like, let's take an 1176 for an example. Everybody makes a plugin of an 1176. There's good reason why. It's a great compressor. But there's different ways of modeling those compressors, and every company that puts one out has a different way of modeling, and they've gotten a different unit because the hardware units all sound a little different from one another. I mean, even if we come back, let me go back over here. We go back into our session. I'm going to open up a mixer, and I'm just going to put it on the guitar bus. It doesn't matter. If I go to 1176 very quickly, even from UAD, I'm going to load up. Here's the 1176 LN Legacy. So this is the blackface, right? 1176 SE. This is the silver face. CLA 76. I'm just trying to think of like which ones I have so I can open them up. Here's the blackie. Here's the bluey. Let's see, who else do I have that makes an 1176? I think Smasher. This is an 1176. Let's let it load. Boom. There we go. It's a blue face. Let's do the Fat Channel. Fat Channel's got an 1176 in it as well. We'll just go to the Fat. And this is one of the blackface 1176s. So you can see a lot of different manufacturers make, a lot of different versions. We can pin this guy, pin that guy. Just on this one channel, you're already seeing so many. That's already 5 different 1176 emulators. compressors. And that's not even all I have. I have a few more that I can't even think of right now where I can mix a bit tighter. But for me, I started stepping away from a lot of plugins where I can mix a bit tighter without them and get signal close on raw tracks. That's a great approach as well. But going back to it, there's a reason that different manufacturers put out their version of the 1176, for example. One is the sonic characteristics of the hardware units that they had available to them. Like these two, the Blackie and the Bluey on the CLA 76, are modeled after Chris Lord-Alge's. He's got two blue faces and like 4 black faces. And they all do have slightly different characteristics to them. And that's why, just in this plugin alone, you can get the Blackie or the Bluey and change between them. The Fat Channel, Fat Comp, 1176s don't have a sidechain. They may have a sidechain filter in, but like you can see that on some of these plugins, like on the UA one, there's no sidechain input onto this one, but on the Fat Comp there is. You can sidechain what's going on. Jason, I'm sorry to ask this, but what is a CLA 76? The CLA 76 is the Waves version of an 1176 compressor, and that's why you're seeing 5 different ones right now on screen. It's a FET-based or FET based compressor, which is different from a stock compressor is very clean. It's digitally able to scan and detect the signals, and so it's like very clean. It doesn't impart a lot of sounds, where these are based on hardware that had detection circuits, and they had actual gain reduction circuits and things like that. So the circuits of different units all sounded different, and how people use them all sounded different. That's why, like, even on the CLA 76, there's the standard ratio buttons on all of these, and there's the all buttons in mode, which is something that's not on the UA version, although you can do it on the UA version by holding shift, and then it puts it into the all buttons in mode. But that was something you could do on the hardware. Same thing with on the Fat Comp. You have the all buttons in option as well. So am I telling you to go out and spend all your money on all the different versions of an 1176? No, I'm not telling you to do that at all. I'm telling you there are reasons that a million different versions exist, and to mess around with the ones that are readily available to you. I wouldn't go out and spend all of the money on like the UA version, which makes great plugins, by the way. They sound really good. And there's a reason that they have their price point so high, is because they're the ones that actually manufacture the thing. So they could just walk into the warehouse, pull one off the shelf, and model that one and just add it to the algorithm. Does the CLA 76 come standard with Studio One Professional? No, but the Fat Channel FET Comp does. This is a third-party compressor, from Waves. You can, if you are curious about the CLA 76, there's a link in the description of this video that will send you to Waves. It is a referral link from me, but you can go click that, and I think it gives you like 10% off or a little bit off. So you can go and add it from Waves. But in Studio One Professional, you already get the Fat Channel, and in the Fat Channel, you can press this little down arrow and click the Fat Comp. This is an 1176, the same thing. All the other ones that you're seeing are third-party vendors. FET equals field effective transistor. Yes, that's what FET means. So thank you all for putting that in and making sure. So there are reasons to go out and buy different plugins of the same thing, but you should learn one first. And honestly, you can get a lot done with the FET Comp inside the Fat Channel. I do enjoy the change and the versatility of the CLA 76, where I can change it between the Blackie and the Bluey. The Bluey is a little bit more mid-range, kind of like push in it, and the Blackie doesn't have that as much. They're still both really good sounding compressors, but actually, let's just do a very quick little audio snippet, and you'll be able to hear what I'm talking about. We'll go to a vocal, and we were talking about this the other day. Hey, cool, look, I already have the CLA loaded on this vocal. This is the one I actually went in and redid these vocals. So if I was going to put slowest attack, fastest release, and solo this guy, and let's just go to here real quick. Where is you? There's that. What have I done? Hang on. He's in here somewhere. Oh, it's on a different layer. So here, we'll just go to the end. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Look, my love, what we've discovered in one another. No compression. We're going to throw on the black face version, dial something in real quick, and then we'll just do a real fast A and B, and you'll hear that there are sonic differences between the black and the blue. Look, my love, what we've discovered in one another. Everything that we could want and more. Okay, so really fast we found they bump close to a valve. Yeah, they do. But that's what an LA2A has built into them. Look, my love, what we've discovered in one another. Look, my love, what we've discovered in one another. Look, my love, what we've discovered in one another. Everything that we could want and more. So there's a little bit of a mid-range push with the blue face, and the top end is a little... it's almost attenuated ever so slightly versus the Blackie, which kind of seems very linear in its frequency response. Look, my love, what we've discovered in one another. Everything that we could want and more. They are both nice. This is why I do like the CLA 76. Now, it is an older plugin. I am gonna switch to this because we do have to call it in a couple minutes. It is a very handy compressor. It's being able to very quickly swap between the two is very handy. Sorry, I'm just checking something over here. So the Waves version of an 1176, specifically Chris Lord Algae's 1176, is very nice. Being able to switch between black and blue, and you can hear that there are sonic differences between the two. That's why they made them both available, and thankfully they didn't make it as two separate plugins that you had to pay for. They just lumped them together because they're both 1176s. They're just different revisions. I think one's based on the C revision or the B, which was the blue face. And then the Blackie for Chris Lord Algae may have been a D revision because the silvers were A. The blue faces, I think, were B or C. And then D is when they went black faces, and they went up from there. They had some reissues of blue faces, in like the 2000s. So there are plenty of reasons that a lot of different manufacturers make the same plugin because they put their different things on. Hang on, let me go back to it real quick. On the CLA 76, yes, you can do all buttons in mode, but going back over here, Smasher is a blue face with all buttons in mode, and you can't change that. You can just adjust the input and the output and the mix knob. But this is meant to be like a parallel bus or, a sent on a parallel bus of just parallel compression and just smashing them. This is really good for drums. If I was going to, let's just drag this to our drums real quick. Solo. So very quickly on here, it's an all buttons in. I'm hitting it real hard. I have my mix knob down to 40, let's call it 40%, and it's adding attack to these drums, and a lot of room sound. I'm just going to turn it. I'm going to do it one more time. Just listen to how it makes the room sound that much bigger, and like I don't need to add reverb. So it allows you to do some crazy stuff, and this is what this plugin does, and that's all it does. It's just Blueface, all buttons in, go to town, compress to hell. I can see something coming in, but just my chat hasn't updated yet. So I'm gonna get some water. There's none left. That's good. It'll update in a second. I don't care. So we weren't able to get fully into mix prep and things like that. Unfortunately, I have been not great with that today. What did I just hit? Wow, I hit something weird. But if you're getting a session ready to send to an outside engineer, talk with them and see if they're willing to do things for you, either at a cost or just included in the price of mixing, something like vocal tuning. That might be a separate cost for your mix engineer. So you want to be able to go in and have everything done. If everything is done, then you can print all of your stems using export stems or bounce from zero, anything. We've touched on a couple things, but export stems is probably one of the easiest way to do it. And then everything lines up. It all comes from zero. You can commit whatever sounds you want. You just have to remember to have all your faders at zero and all of your pans in the center. If you have stereo files, it will print them as stereo files, and that's fine. But if you have mono files and you have it panned off to like the left and you don't hit preserve mono, it's going to print a stereo file and just dump that guitar onto the left. And then you can take all of those files, which are all consolidated to zero. They can drag it into their session, whether it be Pro Tools, Cubase, a different version of Studio One, maybe an older version or whatever. If for some reason you don't send them the entire like session folder and everything, then they can just drag it in. Everything lines up. You're gonna have the names in there. Some mixers have different naming schemes that they want you to do. So just talk to the mixer that you hire. Hang on, I want to do that. I'm gonna do that. I'm going to do this. I'm just changing some stuff very quickly. That one. Ew. What's going on here? Come on. There we go. I like the smash. Easy. Yeah, dude. It's amazing how it's amazing. Yes. Sorry, I need to pop out the chat real quick. And then I can get rid of that one. Move that over here. Sorry. Last question. Hit me. I want you to hit me. But yeah, while he's typing his question in, and it is going to be our last one because I do have to end. I got some other stuff I got to take care of. Work. Blech. Have everything done as if the way you would want it. If somebody was giving you a session to mix, you wouldn't want all this extra work. Talk to your mixing engineer, see what they want you to do, follow their naming structure, because maybe they don't want it to be kick in and kick out. They just want, or maybe they do want it kick in and kick out, or they want, and you named it with the microphone where it's like kick beta 52, kick beta 91, or D6 or something like that. If they just want kick in and kick out, rename it for them. Talk to them. You can always talk to anybody you hire. Mastering engineer, mixing engineer, tracking engineer, editor, things like that. Just see what they're comfortable with and what will make their life easier. What do you think about online mastering, Lander, Aria, eMastered, etc.? I think that you are better off and will get a better product from an actual mastering engineer. AIs are out there for a few reasons. So let's take like Lander, or we'll just use Lander for now. They provide a service. Their service is to make your song mastered. And I say mastered because in my experience with things that I've heard from Lander versus things that I've heard from a mastering engineer, Lander essentially just takes your mix and puts it through its algorithm of, okay, here it is, make loud, send out. A mastering engineer will listen to your mix, and you can talk to this person, and they might say, hey, your mix is really good, but I'm noticing this weird resonance in your left electric guitar or your acoustic guitar. Can you go back into your mix and cut a dB and a half of 3K? These are arbitrary numbers, it doesn't matter. And then reprint from there, and then I'll be cool. Because they are hearing your song for the first time, and they're just giving you their first impressions, and they're giving you active feedback. And this active feedback of what your song has and needs is what can make you a better mixer. Because if I send this off to Lander, it's just going to make loud and boom, job done. But if I send it to a mastering engineer and they say, hey, I'm noticing that you have like a little bit of like 3.5K going on in your acoustic guitar, can you fix that? Then you can learn from that. And you'd be like, I wonder if every time I mix an acoustic guitar, it has a little bit too much of 3.5. And you can have that back and forth with them. Plus, Lander, for example, is only going to make things loud, where a mastering engineer, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do that. A mastering engineer will make your track loud, yes. Especially if you ask them, hey, I want this to be stupid loud. But they're going to do a bunch of other things to make it deeper and wider and have more punch and have more girth. And these are all different terms and non-technical speak. And it'll be brighter and wider and all these other things because they're taking the time to craft the song to be its best instead of Lander, which is going, yes, robot, loud, go, next one. So I am not a fan of online services like this. They provide a service. If all you need is for your track to get loud, because let's say you're on like a crazy fast turnaround timeline, you get a song and they're like, I need this released tomorrow morning. By the way, it's 11 o'clock at night. You can get the job done. You can go to Lander, do your mix, send it to Lander, get it back, and however long it takes them to turn around, I honestly don't even remember. And you can get the job done. But if you have the budget, and mastering engineers don't really cost that much, if you have the budget and you have the time, use a mastering engineer. They'll give you that feedback. They'll do what the song needs and not just compare it and make it loud and maybe some EQ stuff. Generally, though, it's just song comes in, make loud, song goes out. That's my opinion on it. But, test it yourself. Get a track. Send it to Lander. Have Lander do its thing, but also send it to a mastering engineer, the same one, and then compare in your system at home and see which one you like better. Lander's pretty cheap, and mastering engineers, maybe you could even do... Hey, Mark, thanks for jumping in at the end. This is the very end, though, but yes, the replay will be available once it's done doing its YouTube thing. Reach out to some mastering engineers. Some mastering engineers will offer test masters. So maybe you could just do like a little snippet from them and see how their test master works against Lander, which just wants your money, will make loud, send out. Play with it yourself, find out. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. We're going to postpone this Thursday's stream. I have a bunch of things that I need to do, so unfortunately I'm not going to be able to stream on Thursday. We're going to come back next week, and this song, I promise, will be done, and we'll mix it. We'll have fun mixing it together, and maybe the multi-tracks will be available for you guys as well. I'm working on it, all right? I have a bunch of things to do, but we'll get into this song next week on Tuesday, 2:30. We'll mix it for our UK friends. That's 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, which is where I am. And I think the time difference is like 5 hours, if I remember correctly. Is it 4 or 5 hours from Greenwich Mean Time? I might be 4. I think I'm -4 for you guys. I can't remember. But Tuesday, we'll join up again. I hope you guys have a great remainder of your week. If you have more questions, by all means, send them to me. I'll answer them as best as I can in whatever way you contact me, and we'll go from there. Bob, have a great week. You too, man. Mark, I hope you watch this and learn some stuff. Jason, thanks for joining. Audrey, thank you again. And you also sent the donation earlier. So again, thank you for that.